Check, 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 Czechoslovakia. That's how you know I'm 40. All the young people are probably like, that's not a country, it's Czech Republic now. Hi, everybody. My name is Sandra Zori, and I'm here today to talk to you about the heavy topics, about how to talk to your children about heavy topics. What I'm going to start with is tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to talk about my values and how I define what a difficult topic is. And then I'm going to simplify complexity, and I'm going to talk about emotions, because those are the subcategories of what I think a difficult topic is. And then we'll talk about some final thoughts, and I'll share some photographs. So about me, as you know, I'm 40 now. I was born in '83. I'm actually an immigrant a number of times over. I was born in Iraq, and I was raised in the Middle East. And then I immigrated to Canada. I'm from Windsor, and I finished high school there, but then I went to Wayne State, where I studied pharmacy. I met my husband, he's also Canadian, and we moved here. We have 2 children, and in that time, I worked as a pharmacist, and I was just your regular suburban mom. I shop at Target, I go to Kohl's, I love Costco. I also like Amazon Prime. But yeah, everything was just regular about my life. Just you could pinpoint where I would be any day of the week, because I was either picking up kids from school or driving to Costco, literally. So just like everyone here in the audience. However, in 2018, I found out I had breast cancer. It was a surprise diagnosis. It came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it to happen. I don't have family history. But here we are. Sometimes things happen and we don't expect it, yet we have to be faced with it and we have to think about how to deal with it. So my breast cancer diagnosis came in 2018. I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, which meant that I needed to be treated using chemotherapy, which I did for a few months through IV. And then I had a number of surgeries, but the big one related to breast cancer was I chose to have a double mastectomy, which is a 7-hour-long surgery. I also did radiation, so this entire part of my body was burnt to a crisp. Following that, I did more chemotherapy. I was on some oral tablets. I took 10 tablets a day for about 6 months. And then finally, the last thing I did was I was put in an immunotherapy trial where they were trying to see if this would be a good treatment for women with the specific type of breast cancer that I had, which I think it's working because it's been approved and now it's part of regular treatment. So anyway, so this is the kind of exceptional part that happened. Went through this entire diagnosis and went through all this treatment, and all of this lasted about 2.5 to 3 years. Which brings us to this question. When you are faced with something so big and traumatic and personal, you may ask yourself, is this something I want to hide, or is this something I want to share? Because there were times when I did hide things. You know, I had wigs and scarves, but there were times that I went out like this. And I thought about it, do I want to share this with my work, with my family, with my friends? And do I want to share this with my kids? Is this something that I want people to know about, or is this a part of me that I want to keep private? And for you, when you ask yourself that question about, is this something that I want to keep private, or that's personal. You decide what type of person you are. But I thought about it and I said, well, do I want to tell my kids? My girls at the time were 4 and 6 years old. And how do you talk to them about something as big and as heavy as cancer? And then I said, okay, I do want to tell them something, because I've had all these surgeries. I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be tired. How do I explain that to young children? So if yes, how do you explain that? And for me, I had to ask myself, is sharing this difficult thing more important than hiding it? Is it easier? Is it more valuable to me? These are all questions that we grapple with individually, but for me, I decided, well, to answer that question, what type of a person am I? Do I want to share this, or do I want to keep it private? So I thought about, what are my values? what are things that I value to help me answer if I want to share this with others, specifically my kids? The first thing you should know about me is I like information. I like knowing data. I like having all the facts. It's why I went to school for a long time, and it's why I went back to school again. I just like knowing things, and it is one of my core values is to know information. The second is transparency. I believe in honesty. I like knowing not just all the facts, but I like an even exchange. When I ask you your opinion, I would like an honest answer. When you ask me mine, get ready. But I value transparency, and I thought, well, this is who I want to be. And lastly, control. I'm type A. I like to have things within my control. I like regiment, I like organization, and I like being able to decide what I'm going to share and how I'm going to say it. So those are my 3 core values, and I decided, all right, so you've decided to share your trauma. How do you do it? The question of trauma or something that's heavy and difficult is you think about, okay, well, what makes a subject difficult? What makes it heavy? What makes it this beast that you need to tackle? And I've decided that there's really 2 main categories. Either the topic itself is complex and challenging to understand, or it has a heavy emotional weight. Sometimes it has both, but if we kind of break it down and decide, all right, is it a complex topic? What makes it complex? Subtopics, so maybe it has different categories, different parts, different things to consider, but also different variables and unknowns. So perhaps there's not a clear answer to the problem. There's an if, then, over and over. Or it might be in complicated language, like calculus. It might just be a bunch of words that you don't really know and you're not familiar with, and until you kind of understand what those are and breaking it down simpler and simpler, seeing it in this giant piece makes it super complex. Secondly, emotional weight. So when something has this heavy emotional weight, it's burdensome. That emotion could be fear, it could be anger, it could be grief, it could be immense sadness, and sometimes those are things that are just really, really difficult to grapple with. So first we should think about, well, what is the emotion that I'm attaching to this subject that makes it difficult for me to talk about? And assign it value. Perhaps it's, scary as well as angering, like cancer. Which of those things am I feeling more of? In the beginning, I felt more fear. Now I feel more anger because I'm not afraid anymore, but I'm really upset that it happened. And sometimes those things can change, but assigning it value, defining it and assigning it value. And then lastly, seeking help. So to simplify complexity, we talked about how there's all these subtopics. And if we can break down the subtopics, maybe think about, well, each of these little parts, so cancer, right? There's the diagnosis, what does it mean? There's the treatment, what does it mean? What does chemotherapy mean? It means I have to go somewhere and get a medication and it goes in my veins and then I feel tired for a day or 2. Surgery is a treatment. What does surgery mean? It means I'm gonna go to the hospital, I'll be gone for a day, maybe till tomorrow. Someone has to drive me home, someone has to make meals. And just kind of breaking those subtopics down. Using easier language, especially when speaking to children. So maybe not saying something so scary as, it's a double mastectomy, it's a bilateral. Like, what? Just saying, hey, I'm gonna go to the doctor and there's a part of me in my chest that's sick and the doctor's gonna cut it out. Changing the language so that children can understand. And editing when appropriate. You don't need to tell them everything, but maybe giving them some idea of what that difficult thing that you're going through is, helps them understand it. And always admitting when you don't know, because we don't know all of it. Not even all the doctors know all of it. But just recognizing that as humans, we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. It's okay to still wonder. Here's a picture of me on, I went to get an MRI, and the kids came with me, because I think they had a snow day that day. I had to bring them with me. As far as emotions go, like I was saying, define the emotion. What is it that you're feeling? Is it that you're afraid? Is it that you're embarrassed? Is it that you're upset? Is it that you're grieving? And then talk to your child about, well, how do they define fear? Are they afraid of the same things you're afraid of? Can they understand the same fears that you have? So talking to them about, well, what do you think these emotions mean? And also assigning value to those things. Maybe for you, fear is higher on the list, but for them, it's boredom. If they have to sit with you at your MRI appointment and they don't understand that it's a scary thing. So kind of deciding, well, what are the emotions that are in play here? Seeking help when needed. So this was something that I did. There's lots of resources out there, not just for grief counseling with cancer, but anything. You can seek the help of professionals or your other friends or other adults that you know, other adults in the school system, books, websites, things like that, but just being able to manage those emotions. So, now you know, does this trauma come gift wrapped? And the answer is no. It's not easy. It doesn't have a bow tie. It's not nice and simple. It's the unknown. And usually I find that when we don't know things, it's scarier than when we do. It's scarier than bad news even, because at least with bad news, there's a plan and something to look for, to plan towards or work around. The other thing I've always said is I'd rather hear it from me than them Google it, especially Google Images. Just having me be the person that gets to define what the answer is. There is no quick and easy solution. This is not wrapped up in a bow. It is difficult, but you start small. You start with a smaller difficult topic, like maybe a bad grade on a test, or maybe behavior that you didn't like that your kid did, and work with that and talk about those kind of things, because when you start small, you can tackle bigger, more challenging things. So here are some photographs. This is myself and my husband and the girls on my last day of radiation. You get to ring a bell when you're done treatment. I was an avid CrossFitter for a long time, and the girls were very much a part of my CrossFit journey. They would come to a lot of my events, see me work out, and they understand that, not always able to do the things that I was able to do before cancer, but they're a part of that journey, and they can understand highs and lows and successes and also some disappointments sometimes. Here, this is the second time that my daughters had donated their hair to Maggie's Wigs for Kids. She makes wigs for little kids with cancer. And again, bringing them into that conversation, this is what it means. Hey, remember how scary it was for me to have cancer? Imagine you were a 6-year-old with, and just reminding them that this exists in the world, and for them not to be afraid of it, and for us to be able to have that conversation. As you can see up at the top, the girls are really little. This was when I was first diagnosed and I lost all my hair. And this was I think this was their first day here at STEAM back in September. So we still are a normal family that goes to Target and goes to Kohl's and goes to Costco. You learn to talk about all these difficult things with your children and just grow together and recognize that life is not always rosy and clear and perfect, but sometimes even with these really tough things that happen, we can get through it. And we can still continue to be happy, and we can still continue to achieve something in our families with clarity. Here's me at one of my last doctor's appointments, and me last summer when I was studying for my exams and my hair had finally started to come back. And I thank you for your time. Appreciate it.